Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on Data Hunt, Foraging for Data from the US Census Bureau. I am your host, Tracy Flood, a bona fide data forager, and I'm president and co-founder of the Broad Street Institute. Today, we'll be making a portfolio project, which is a one-pager on health insurance by congressional district, using the latest US Census Bureau data. And that portfolio project is optional, but we find that the best way to learn about data is to have an applied project to make a real world impact. So we welcome each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a big, hefty session, so we appreciate you taking the time to be here. For every one person who's here in the room, there are 3 follow-along participants. So follow-along participants, if you're watching the recording, hello. Let's get started. Little bit of housekeeping. This is an interactive collaborative session. We do recommend having a computer at the ready with G Drive access. Not all work sites allow G Drive access, so you might want to get there. Audio, video, especially for part 3 in the team rooms. Joining a mobile is not recommended. Really, it's just too much information on too tiny of a screen. The session will be recorded and shared. We'll share the pretty much raw recording right after this with all of the follow-along participants. And all of the slides and resources are available in the shared G Drive folder. And there it is. Today's agenda is split into 5 main parts. The first part we've already somewhat been through here, which is the welcome, survey, and intros. And then we'll dive into part 1, which is the speedrun tour of all of the Sprinter Challenge resources. After that, we're going to be starting the step-by-step challenge. The challenge is designed to be about 20 minutes. We'll give a step-by-step on how to accomplish the challenge and the portfolio project. And then there'll be time in part 3 to try it for yourself. So part 2 is really a watch and learn. And then part 3 is to give it a try as part of a team. And that's when we'll proceed to the team rooms. And the final 5 of the session will be time to connect, to give feedback, and to talk about next steps. There are breakaway points. This session is designed to be to work within your work day. And so the first breakaway point is after part 1, where we're sharing the sprint resources, and then after part 2, before the team breakout rooms. So at any one time, if you have to break away, then please know that this entire session will be recorded and the recording will be shared. We're going to start with a few disclosures that I think are important to lay out. So Broad Street, the hosts of today's meeting, we're a registered 501c3 nonprofit. We have a focus on training the next generation of leaders in data-guided decision-making and evidence-based solutions to improving community health. Our funding is 100% from the community, and this event was requested, planned, and is supported by our learner community. So thank you to our support squad team members who are out there today. There is an element of civic education here because one of the deliverables is writing a letter to an elected official. We believe that data heal the world. And in order for it to do that, we really have to share it. So we want to get good practice in creating data that is shared with others. And we want to empower you to do the same and to make a difference with data. Now, for this challenge, we are writing an advocacy letter. And that advocacy letter is going to an elected official. It's designed to be in a style that's nonpartisan, non-lobbying, so that it is safe for work if your work site limits lobbying. And it is possible to complete the challenge without contacting an elected official, but we will be gearing up to do that, and that'll help us to hone our data skills. We do ask for a few ground rules. We know the environment around public health and data and publicly available data can sometimes bring people into a sense of despair. We really don't find the emotion of despair to be particularly useful. And so what we ask are to spread hope and to share solutions. So to really have that discipline to empower others, to spread hope, to share solutions, to always have next steps and empowerment at the ready. I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to our planning team who are shown above, but really there are a ton of others working behind the scenes and also who are here with us today as part of the support squad team. So you'll be seeing their names around Zoom. But for the planning team, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Farheen, Teresa, Kainat, Shamini, and Negar. And thank you to all of the support squad team members who are here today. And thank you to those who helped with the pilot last week. Thank you, thank you. just to share a little bit about myself with this here glamour shot. Turning towards the camera. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've got over 10 years of experience in community health data. Like I said, I'm a bona fide data forager. And before I was the president and co-founder of Broad Street, I worked on a very large software project where we were hunting for publicly available data and presenting it in maps and data viz. Right now, I'm the president and co-founder of the Broad Street Institute, which is a 501c3. We currently have 140 active intern learners who are doing projects, multi-month projects on data-guided decision-making and evidence-based solutions. And some of those interns are here today, and we also host public events, obviously. So here at Broad Street, we have many different backgrounds, but we believe very strongly that data heal the world. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Why us? Why you? Why now? So why us? We're very passionate about publicly available data and how much it can empower change and bridge solutions and help to lay the groundwork for finding solutions to this generation's greatest challenges. We really do believe in the power of data and believe in the foundation of publicly available data that is free and available to use. And so obviously when there's a limitation on publicly available data, some says the data.census.gov website going down, we really wanted to take action. So we designed this pop-up event. Hopefully you also share our interest in data. And that's why we love to welcome you here today and why we're having this session today. Okay, the part you've all been waiting for is the speed run of the resources. So we're calling it the sprint resources, also known as the challenge resources. And we're going to be sharing some of the key things that you're going to need to know. The challenge is to write a one-page letter with % uninsured for your congressional district using the latest Census Bureau data, real impact and real learning. If you already have an idea for a project for which you will use the US Census Bureau data, then more power to you. You will still be able to get a lot out of this session. We want to center it around a real world project. We find that the best way to learn and to frame these large data sets. We are going to be facing the challenge of finding the indicator for uninsured. How do we do that? And is it even in the US Census Bureau data? And then we also want to figure out if it's by this geography. Is it in the US Census data by this geography? Do you know? Does anyone know? And then more importantly, if someone's like, is this the latest data? What is the latest data that we can possibly find? We're going to try to answer all of those questions. All right, let's do the cooking show style where we show the end result. This is an elected official. This is their contact page. The output is a portfolio project, which is a one-page letter to a member of Congress. Again, if you have your own project in mind, that's absolutely okay. But we're going to use this to frame out the challenge. So this is the contact page for Gwen Moore, who's based out of Milwaukee. And I am going to be thinking about the data in terms of a human-centered, design-first approach. Census data is huge, and it's going to be like walking up to a fire hose and asking for a drink of water if you do not know what from the census data you need. So what do we need? Before we gather the data at all, we want to ask who is seeing it, what is their numeracy or their data literacy, what interests them, and why would they read about the data that we're sharing with them? And then also, what is the mode or the channel? How will they see it? In this case, we're using a text-based format because contact pages for national, federal, US congressmen are really text-based. So this is how those, unless we want to fax them. And this is how they'll see it. So text-based, we just got to gather a few indicators. What is the least that we need? To make our point, at least in this context, we need the number of people who are uninsured, the % of people who are uninsured, and we also obviously want to compare it to a US benchmark. Otherwise, Gwen Moore will have absolutely no context of whether or not it's high or low in that region. Is it possible to do this? Let's find out. First of all, we want to be sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. Is this a smart objective? Yes. Okay. I think we've made it really specific, a letter with 3 indicators, number, %, uninsured, and then US benchmark. Yes, it is measurable via the challenge tracker. It is achievable. We believe it's achievable in 20 minutes, maybe less. If you want to troubleshoot or explore a little bit more, then maybe 40 minutes. We believe it's achievable. And then R, it's relevant, it's aligned with at least our big picture goals. Hopefully it's aligned with your goals as well. And then who's responsible? Each and every person will be looking for these three indicators, and the support squad is here to help. Time bound. The challenge ends midday on day 3. If this is day 1, day 3 is Thursday. By the end of the session, everyone should know how to explore the vast amounts of data published by the US Census Bureau, identify alternative sources of demographic data if data.census.gov is unavailable, as it currently is, and also be able to write a letter to a member of Congress using the latest data from that congressperson's district. Plus, we're hoping that we'll be able to strengthen networks. It's very, very important now more than ever to strengthen those professional connections and those networks. We have a 90-minute workshop. We have a 3-day challenge. We've got a support squad here to help. We're going to be only showing free resources, and we've got some tools available on the Google Drive. And in particular, we've got this 5 free census data tools, Census Reporter, My Congressional District, actually created by the government, but a very, very useful app. The CARES Map Room, County Health Rankings and Roadmaps, your Congressional District Health Dashboard, and bonus, the Census Data API. Don't be scared by the fact it's an API. We'll actually have a bonus activity of being able to query it. All right, those are the 5 free US Census data tools. We have why we love it. We have the limitations. We have geographic levels available and census data indicators. One of our favorite ones is Census Reporter. And it's one of the ones we'll be using today for the rest of the challenge is going to be My Congressional District, but we are going to have a little bit of a tour of each of these. All right, 3 days. Challenge starts Tuesday, ends on Thursday if you're interested in getting your micro certificate by Thursday. That's 50 hours total. For those that have to leave at the top of the hour, you've gotten what you need. Thank you. Now let's dive into the step-by-step 20-minute challenge. First, I want to start with a story. So I want to start with a story about feeling like an imposter. This is actually a very personal story. The story actually starts for me right after I did my MD PhD. I was very, very, very into school, did an MD PhD, and then I got my first job. And my area of research was in childhood obesity prevention at the community level. And one of my first jobs was as the director of data for Wisconsin Obesity Prevention Initiative out of the University of Wisconsin. So in that job, one of the first things that I was asked to do that took me way outside my comfort zone was to testify at the state capitol because they were having a hearing about making physical activity requirements mandatory at the state level. So I went down to Madison, Wisconsin, the state capital of Wisconsin, and testified in one of the hearings. I had incredible imposter syndrome, and luckily I had a few people to reassure me. I thought I needed to bring all of these data and all of these statistics, but the honest truth is that there's so few people that have taken the time to research different things, to gather data for different things, that even just a very small wisp of expertise, I think I spoke for 3 minutes to 5 minutes tops, was really all that was needed. So on the one hand, as the more you learn about a topic, the more you feel very humbled by how much there is to know. You feel humbled by how fast the literature and the data changes and how fast the evidence-based solutions change as more and more data becomes available and more studies are done. You become very humbled the more you learn about something. So very paradoxically, I think that people that have studied things become more prone to imposter syndrome because they know how much more there is to know. But having said that, I think that talking to an elected official is an incredibly valuable thing to do. And just remember, not everyone's a data person. In fact, so few people are data people that even just having a wisp of information is really, really useful. Why am I telling this story? We're about to go into a very large data set, and it's going to be very tempting to want to gather all of the information that you possibly can, but really just think about who it is you're talking to and what's the least amount of information they truly need, and that'll help to hone exactly what you should be looking for in this vast vast data sets. Right now, how many members of Congress right now do you think you could write to tell them the percent uninsured in their district? So we did ask in the survey about if you could do this. How many members of Congress do you think you could contact right now about data for their district? How many humans could you delight with your census data knowledge? Let's talk about the different components of why we may or may not be ready to do this task. So one letter with 3 data indicators. So percent insurance, numbers, percent uninsured, number of uninsured, of those who are uninsured, and then a US benchmark. Maybe some of you are feeling like the thing that you just don't know is how to deliver the letter, maybe not how to write the letter. You definitely need to know your congressional districts in order to know what geographies they're interested in, and also how to contact them in the first place. So I guess that's a good place to start. Writing the letter, prepping the letter, always helpful to know what to say to members of Congress. We'll provide a template. We're not going to spend too much time on those 2 steps. We're going to be spending the most time here, adding 3 indicators, figuring out if census data even has percent uninsured by congressional district, and figuring out what the latest US Census data is, and how to find it when data.census.gov is down. We're going to figure out all of those things. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step by step. All right, first we got to figure out what regions of interest the congressional district Congress people would have. So what are their geographies of interest? If you are interested in, for instance, writing community health needs assessment, your geography of interest might be your service area, for instance. So first things first is figuring out what is our geography of interest. Then we're going to prep the letter. This is the human-centered design first. We want to know what we're putting the data into. Then we're going to add the 3 indicators, including the benchmark. And definitely in order to accomplish this, we're going to have to explore alternatives to data.census.gov. We'll spend the most time here. First things first, for any US Census Bureau project is figuring out the geography of interest. In this case, it is congressional district, and figuring out who the human is that's going to be watching this. So human-centered design first. Who is this for? Who's the audience? And what is their region or their geography of interest? Who are your 3 Congress members in DC, and what are their districts, or what is their region of interest? All right, let's do this. All right, first things first with any census data project is getting your geography of interest. So geography of interest. If we're reaching out to our own elected officials, as we will be, then I'm going to be first typing in my address. Milwaukee Street, Milwaukee. That sounds like a real place. All right, 3 Congress people sitting in DC representing me from all of the state of Wisconsin. We have Senators Baldwin and Johnson, Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson. So these are for the entire state of Wisconsin. So each state has 2 senators. They represent the entire state. Now, I also have a representative, Gwen Moore, who is in the House of Representatives. So that's 3 people, 2 different geographies. One geography of interest would be the entire state of Wisconsin. The other geography of interest would be Gwen Moore's district, which is very squiggly indeed. So if I scroll out here, this is the district that Gwen Moore represents. So I'm a constituent in Gwen Moore's district. Tammy and Ron, they're for the entire state of Wisconsin. All right, so 3 people, 2 geographies, state and district. Now, that is a little bit of a pickle. How are we going to find this very squiggly district extending into Lake Michigan? And we're going to have to try to figure that out. So first things first is I just want to note this person's name, and I want to also note their contact information. This looks familiar. There it is. All right, so at least I have that information available. And I don't think I've even figured out like what district Gwen's a part of. Okay, 4th district. So right now, the Wisconsin District 4, that's what that squiggly line is the Wisconsin 4 district. Okay, so I have the state of Wisconsin and the Wisconsin 4 district. I have my geographies. Okay, prep a letter using a template. Do you know what to include in a letter to an elected official? Again, before diving into the vast amount of data from the US Census Bureau, know the geography that you're interested in, and then also know the phrasing that you're interested in. There is so much data available in the US Census Bureau, data that you definitely want to know how much you need. What's the least that you need? So at least for this letter, it's going to be very straightforward. I'm writing as a constituent in your district, and I'm a voter, and I want to talk about the issue of insurance and ask you to insert your ask here. If there's a vote on the floor, maybe I'll lobby to have them vote yes or no on that vote. If there's no vote on the floor, I can ask for their opinion or their position on something. And then this is where I would insert my statistic, or my story. And then they want to know your address because they want to know if you're a voter in their district for real. That's all you need. All right. So that's the bare bones basic letter. They want to know your address. They want to know your name. They will look up if you're an active voter. They don't know who you voted for, but they want to know that you're a voter in their district. And then you can share some information, always less than a page. A staffer will read this. A staffer will put it into, maybe a spreadsheet for the congressperson. So you just want to be polite and brief. The topic, ask 1 to 3 persuasive points, your name and your full address. They'll ask you. That's it. Moving on. Challenge tracker. Let's go to the challenge tracker and start out with what we need. So we actually have here a prepped letter, and it is currently in a crazy concatenate formula. So this prepped letter is already ready for you. So your output, your deliverable, your portfolio project is ready and waiting for you once the data goes in. And just as a reminder, we'll be collecting 3 data points. All right, so here we are in step 3. Got to answer these questions first. Does Census have percent uninsured by congressional district? What's the latest US Census Bureau data? And then how do I find all this information without data.census.gov? Let's start with this one. They even have this variable. Sometimes I'll use the word variable, sometimes I use the word indicator. Do they even have this? Probably they do. They probably do. All right, the US Census Bureau has over 130 surveys that they administer. And they also have programs. So they have statistical estimation programs where they use data collected from the survey in addition to other data sources to make better and better estimates at smaller and smaller geographies. Obviously, the decennial census that happens every 10 years is their most famous one. The name of their bureau is from that. You also have the American Community Survey. Some of you are familiar with 1-year estimates and 5-year estimates. The American Community Survey has 1-year estimates and 5-year estimates both. And then other surveys maybe you haven't heard of, like county business patterns, but that's only a fraction. There's over 100 more. As far as their programs go, they have what's called the PEP program, or the Population Estimates Program. I believe that's at the county level. And then they also have small area health insurance estimates program by counties and states. While that seems like probably the most likely candidate for where we're going to find our data, that is only at the county level, but it is a very precise estimate of those who are insured at the county level. So that's one of their estimate programs. So I think American Community Survey is actually going to be our best bet here. There's 3 different ways to find what data tables are available. And I'm saying the word data tables very, very purposefully. We're going to be looking at data tables for insurance at data.census.gov, Census Reporter, and the API variable list. Let's look. Let's actually start in data.census.gov. Oh, look, it looks like it's open. We're going to use this. We're going to use this as much as we can, but you're going to see that we're going to hit a roadblock soon enough. All right, so you can follow along or you can just watch and learn. Okay, so exploring the census. All I'm going to do is I'm going to type in insurance. Sure, health insurance. Okay, now what I get is a view with accordion files. A lot of you, I believe, have already used the US Census data, and particularly data.census.gov. So you're probably familiar with all of these different geographies and topics and years and different codes. Lots of different ways to look at the data. Census tracts, blocks, and block groups, those get so teeny small. And then here are the different tables, all of the different tables that are available that have the word insurance in them. And you can see that they get pretty detailed. Now, when I click on this one, you're going to see that typically I would get data right here. Those data are currently unavailable and due to the government shutdown. And so we're going to have to find an alternative data set. But what you can see here are the different table numbers. So this very, very catchily named table is S2701. S2701 does look very promising. And there's a lot of different versions of this. We got 1 year estimates. We've got 5 year estimates. We've got 1 year estimates from a couple of years ago. All right, we're going to come back to that in just a second. So as you can see, there's a ton of different data tables. So the data are organized into data tables. And those tables are available by different geographies. Let's have a look at what that looks like. All right, so lots of different data tables. Just know data tables are how all of the different data are reported out and shared. We're gonna go with this one, 2701, S2701. All right, for every data table, there's an available number of geographies. So the teeniest one is block, also census block group, census tracts, zip codes or ZCTAs similar to zip codes. And then they get bigger and bigger and bigger, including congressional districts. So 1 year estimates, they don't feel comfortable always bringing them all the way down to the teeny tiny census block groups. So they really are available, those 1 year estimates are available at the larger geographies. 5 year estimates are a little bit more robust, taken over several different years. So a 5 year time span of collected data. This American Community Survey is kind of this supplemental survey between census years. And they use that information to do small area estimates down to the different geographies. And so they have those 1 year estimates based on a single year, and they have the 5 year estimates based on a 5 year data collection, this data collection of this American Community Survey. All right, what is the latest US Census Bureau data? Let's go back to where we were. Now, what is true for this table is likely true for many. So right now we're looking, and it looks like the most recent one is the 2024 ACS 1 year estimates. And then it's a little while back in 2023, there's always about a year delay, a year time lag. So this is their estimate for 2024. They also have those 5 year estimates as well, starting a little bit back here. 1 year, 1 year. And then after that, it kind of goes back and forth. Why is that? So the overall gist is that the 5 year estimates for 2020 to 2024 will be published in December. As of right now, we've got those 1 year estimates published just about a month ago. It is currently October, published in September. And then if we go back, then the last 5 year estimate was also published in December. The last 1 year estimate was published in September. December, September. So you can definitely see that there's a bit of a pattern here, which means that the latest data available to us are the 1 year estimates from 2024. Are we comfortable using these 1 year estimates at the congressional district level? I think so. Congressional districts are pretty big. They're made up of multiple counties. I feel comfortable using the 1 year estimates. At smaller geographies, I would actually defer to the 5 year estimates. All right, so 1 year estimates. Let's do it. Let's try to find that 1 year estimates for 2024. All right, how do we do this without the latest data from data.census.gov? How do we do that? Luckily for us, the data user community is incredibly vast. We've got universities, we've got nonprofits, we've got companies, we've got government agencies all using the US Census data. And maybe they're pulling out different variables for a single indicator map. Maybe they're downloading groups of indicators. Maybe they've done a bulk download, or maybe they're accessing it via the always active API, which is just considered a pipeline in, otherwise known as an application program interface. But don't get too scared by this technical terminology, because it's really just a pipeline into the active data set. All right, so universities like Georgetown, Public Health Watch, and Kaiser Family Foundation, all of the abbreviations are down below. They access this data quite a lot and put it in reports and maps and things like that. Then there's those who download groups of indicators like county health rankings, the CARES out of University of Missouri, and the NYU congressional district health dashboard. And there's also companies that have kind of freemium and paid versions like PolicyMap and My Sidewalk. Great tools. And I think PolicyMap has a pretty generous free version, but we're going to be focusing on fully free today. You also have one of the best sources of bulk downloaded American Community Survey data, which is the Census Reporter. That was a project that started out of the University of Northwestern University, I believe, and is now its own nonprofit. And then we also have applications that use the API pipeline. So my congressional district app is currently accessing the always open and always available census data API. These are going to be the 5 resources that we're going to show you today. Let's find out who has the most recent data. So we're looking for those 1-year estimates from 2024 by congressional district. Let's go. Let's speed run this. We're going to end up using, I'm going to spoiler this, we're going to end up using my congressional district because it actually connects directly to the API. So spoiler, we're going to end up using that. Census Reporter, we know, does a data download December, January, so probably doesn't have the latest 2024 1-year estimates. Having said that, though, it is a kick-ass tool. It really is. All right, golly, let's just dive in. Census Reporter. Please just watch and in amazement. Watch in amazement. That's all I'm asking. All right, so you've got your profiles. You can actually start with your geography of interest, and it'll show you a profile for that geography. You can also explore different topics. I'm just going to start with insurance and health insurance documentation. Now, remember, this is a bulk download at the end of every year, and so they have oodles and oodles and oodles of American Community Survey data. Look at all these tables on health insurance. Sometimes I go to Census Reporter, even when data.census.gov is up, just for the sake of their documentation. They do such a beautiful job laying it all out. They are missing that S subject table that we were looking at before. They don't have the subject tables in here, but they do have a lot of very good information using that. So sorry, subject tables S2701. They're missing that S2701, but they do have a lot of other tables available. And yeah, let's just dive into one. I'm just gonna click on it. All right, now it's showing me all the different data points that they're gonna have, and they have different options and different clickable options here. You can also do it by race and ethnicity. I'm just gonna start by Congressional District 5 for Wisconsin. All right, boom. And there it is. Here is all of the information. This is very granular by age. You can do a map. All right, you can add more places if I wanted to add Congressional District 5. Can do a distribution. They've got a lot of different ways to explore the data. Let's go back to the table. Now, this is all percents, and you can see it's all percent, but I can also switch it up, and I can also switch to totals as well. So if I'm looking for that number, remember we're looking for that number, and then we can. So this is great. This is Congressional District 4. I want overall insurance. I would have to add all of these up in order to get those. I also need a US benchmark. Find a place. I'm going to compare it to the US benchmark. Let's see, United States. Boom, added that. I also compare it to the state of Wisconsin. Boom, added that. Okay, now I've got a state and US benchmark. Okay, it is a little bit too granular though, right? It's really going into the differences by age and sex. So I'm not going to use this table, but it is a really awesome, awesome, awesome tool. All right, if I go back to the Census Reporter and I start with Congressional District 4, Wisconsin. Then they do a really beautiful job of sharing all of these different data visualizations. You can expand, you can embed it. I mean, look at all this. It's very cool. Now, uninsured or not having insurance is not one of these beautiful displayed ones here, but there's a ton of information on the congressional district. Awesome. And if I change my mind, I want to go to Congressional District 5, I can actually just click on this map and it'll go straight there. So if you're ever in a meeting and you're like, hey, let's just compare and contrast with key stakeholders from different regions, then you can always do this too. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome data source. We're going to skip over this one because this is the one we'll end up using. Let's go to the CARES map room. I'm actually preloaded. So the University of Missouri has a really amazing extension program, which means that they serve very, very practical tools to members of their state. And one of those very, very practical tools is national data. All right, so right now I have US congressional districts preloaded, but actually the data are by county. I can also go by tract, which is smaller than county. This is the uninsured population. So I can do tract, ZCTA. This is a zip code equivalent used by the Census Bureau. And I can zoom in too. All right, look at all of this data. All right, so the CARES map room actually has a ton more than just uninsured. One of the reasons why we love this data source is because they have pretty much every publicly available data set I've ever known are in here. So these are just their recently added, these are their most used data, but oh my gosh, they have so much data. It is so good. These are just their topics. Oh my gosh, they've got so much data. It is crazy. Very easy to get lost in all of these data. Obviously, they go way beyond US Census Bureau data. I guess we can just go for it and see okay, American Community Survey. Oh my gosh, look at all this data. It's crazy amount of data. Oh my gosh, thank you, CARES. All right, that is that data source. All right, and then we also have county health rankings. I think many people have used the county health rankings. So I'm just going to go straight to the uninsured variable and this indicator that they show here. All right, so here's their uninsured. And one cool thing about this that you might not know about is that they do show maps and they show tables as well for the entire state. And we're just going to let that load for a second. And it'll show the state levels, and then you can download that table, which is really, really nice. Time's up, you can download the table there. You can also look at it by congressional district. Now, it's not data by congressional district. The data are still by city and also by county, but you can see within the congressional district what's going on. Actually, I think the most interesting thing is Census District 4. You can see that there's disparities of place within that region. So if you're ever looking for, finding disparities within a region, then going a little bit smaller geography is helpful. All right, very, very cool. They've got benchmarks. Thank you, County Health Rankings. Congressional District Health Dashboard. This one's a newer one to me. I was very excited to find it. And they've got a really nice benchmark here. They've got a really great set of 40 indicators that they've selected, some of which are from the US Census Bureau data. And this one is for uninsured. So here they show uninsured by congressional district. Let me just zoom in. All right, so you can see this is why I kind of like county health rankings a little bit, because like District 4 looks good overall, at least when you're looking at it in this context, but there might be disparities of race and place within it. Now, they let you do a deep dive into the district, and they have metrics by demographics as well. Uninsured here, that's their 40 indicators. And then they show it by male, female. So even though they show just the whole district level, you can actually dive into different demographic disparities here. I think they've done a really beautiful job. It's very easy to use, but don't forget about these little options up here. Okay, oop. But you can see it's not for the most recent time period. It's not for the most recent time period. It's for last year's data. Not bad. Probably it's about the same, but it's for last year's data. And county health rankings is the same. All right. Let's swoop back up here to my congressional district. This is the one that we're going to be using today. So we'll be sharing this link in the chat. Okay, very, very simple. And this has a very simple vibe, but it has a secret power, which is it's connecting to the application program interface. And so it has the most recent data. If we click on socioeconomic, these are little tabs here. And I can scroll down to health insurance, and I can say with health insurance, with no health insurance. And right now I've got my number. All right, so I'm just going to go copy. I'm copying that right now. And I'm having a little look, making sure that it's right. And I'm going to scroll down, and you can see that they've cited their source right here. Each one of these places cites their sources, always worth looking at their cited sources. Okay, now let's return to the challenge. All right, my congressional district, I'll be coming back. Okay, so here I'm in the challenge. I'm going to claim my row. I'm going to name Gwen Moore. I can reach out to Ron Johnson or Tommy Baldwin, but actually I want to practice doing it by district. Remember, they're by state, so it would be the entire state of Wisconsin that Ron Johnson would be interested in. All right, Gwen Moore is in District 4. I remember that. Gwen Moore's contact info is here. There we go. All right, Wisconsin. FIPS codes for Wisconsin. All right, 2 states, geographic identifiers. A few different ways to do this. You can just Google state FIPS codes. This comes in immensely handy though when you're doing different queries. I actually have the state up here. If you can see in this little query parameter, the state is 55. So I'm guessing that's Wisconsin. Also, I think I've got it here under ST. That's also state. So I'm guessing that Wisconsin is 55. Tap, tap. All right, 55. Boom. All right, I am a voter and constituent in your district. All right, these are all pre-populated. And now I need total population, uninsured. And as long as I have these 2 numbers, I can calculate the percent uninsured. So let's go. Socioeconomic, non-institutionalized population. All right, you want to use that total here, civilian non-institutionalized population. Come on over here. If you're wondering exactly how to do that, it does have instructions here. Okay, boom. And then with no health coverage, boom. All right, I'm just going to calculate the percent. And then I also want to make sure to cite this correctly. I used the My Congressional District app using the American Community Survey, 1-year estimates, 2024, US Census Bureau. People should be able to get back to your data set and find those numbers and check your numbers. That's the goal of the citation. All right, I'm going to skip over this bonus challenge for right now. And then I'm going to do something which might seem like magic, at least it seems like magic to me, which I'm actually going to use what's called a webhook. Sometimes we call it internally a query link to query the API. So this theoretically is querying the API. It's finding an endpoint. And I want to do the same, actually. I'm going to click on this. I'm actually going to open up a new tab. I don't think I have enough tabs. I do think I need to open up another tab. And I'm just going to note that I've got the variables that I'm interested in, the congressional district, and the state. All right, then what happens? And there it is. I'm able to now see, if I do the pretty print, I'm able to see these variables. How did I find those variables? There's actually census data documentation here. If you're ever on the hunt for data and you don't want to use Census Reporter, you want to go straight to the source, there are these huge ass data tables, and you can look up things like uninsured, and it'll show you all of the different variables. It's not as pretty as Census Reporter, but that's how I got those numbers from the API query. Amazing. So much data. It is crazy. All right, that is the challenge. And once we do the census tracker, the challenge tracker, then we should be able to get the information that we need for the letter. Yeah, Teresa.
Just want to let you know the 5.3% that you have, that's not, you didn't copy the formula, you just copied the number. So.
Oh, thank you. I'll be sure to double check that. And then once I double check it, then I'll check this little box here. All right, Teresa is our resident API user, so appreciate that, Teresa. Thank you for catching that. And now if I want to put it all into a letter, I'm going to copy and paste the concatenate formula, and it should say a letter to Gwen Moore. I might have a few more things to gather, and I can definitely edit this, but there's my information, and I can copy and paste it. Thanks, Gwen Moore.